Hi. Hi. Today means I'm going to discuss about the advanced SQL topics, stored procedure and triggers, basically. So, uh, so my objective is to clear the concepts of stored procedure and triggers, so that it will help you in the upcoming interviews. Okay. So, stored procedure and triggers are very commonly used. Okay, in order to uh, have better SQL performance. And you know means memory usages are also low, and it is really very efficient. So first, let us know what is a stored procedure. Okay, so stored procedure is a prepared SQL code that you can save so that the code can be reused over and over again. We know function, right? Function can be a function in any program, in any language. We write functions, right? So function is a reusable code. We call the function whenever we require, and we use the code, and we call function to perform a specific task. Similar like stored procedure. Stored procedure is also a prepared SQL code, okay, which you can save. We means you can give a name, and you can reuse that stored procedure by calling that stored procedure again and again. Okay, so memory usage is much more efficient. Okay, we don't have to code every time the piece of SQL code that you want to run. Okay, so you do it. So you write the SQL code and save it as a stored procedure, give it a name, and reuse it over and over again whenever you require. Okay, so if you have a SQL query that you write over and over again, save it as a stored procedure and just call it to execute it. Okay, and you can pass parameters to a stored procedure so that the stored procedure can act based on the parameter value that is passed. So, like a function, you can pass parameters to a stored procedure. Stored procedure will accept that parameter and will work on that parameter. Okay, and will give you the result when you call that stored procedure. Okay, so what are the advantages of stored procedure? It is security, better performance, maintainability. Okay, better productivity, ease of use, and procedure calls. Stored procedure calls are quick and efficient. As I told, right, it is reusable, right? So the calls are quick and efficient. Okay, now let's see some applications of stored procedure. Okay, so here, uh, once we run this query, you can see this is our table. Okay, employee table. We can see here employee ID, employee name, employee department, hourly pay, and salary. Correct. So right. So here we have 10 rows. Okay, inside this EMPL table. Okay. Now let's try to create a stored procedure. So how to create a stored procedure? So first we have to give the delimiter dollar dollar. In right, create procedure find underscore EMPL. In bracket, it is taken as a parameter. As I told, right, that stored procedure always takes a input, means may or may not take input parameter, but in this case we are seeing that it is taking the input parameter employee ID, and then begin, and then this is the SQL statement, okay, that we want to run again and again. So this we have stored, this we have written inside the stored procedure, and then we're ending the stored procedure and giving dollar dollar sign, as dollar dollar is a delimiter, and then we are, after that we are again changing back the delimiter to semicolon. Okay, so now this is our stored procedure. Okay, so we can see we have already run this particular stored procedure. Okay, and let's again run it. Let's give it a different name as it is already there. So in order to illustrate, okay, so let's give it a different name. So I am giving it employee, so I'm giving it a employee one. Okay, one, two. So create procedure employee one, two, and now I will create this stored procedure. Okay, I will run this. Yeah, so we can see that a stored procedure has been created. Okay, so if we refresh this schema, and so you can see that stored procedure fine in emp12 it has been created. Okay, and now I will call this stored procedure emp12, and I will execute this. Okay, if we execute this, we clearly see the result. Okay, so it is just, it is accepting the employee ID 2334, and okay, which is being populated in emp id, and then it is running this query. Okay, select star from empl where empl underscore id equal to 2334. Okay, and it is giving the result back to us. Okay, so this we can use for different employee IDs, right? This stored procedure. Just we have to change the employee ID bracket, and then we will get the result. Okay, so we don't have to write the query again and again and everything. So memory usage is efficient. It is just, we are writing this stored procedure, we are saving it, we are giving it a name. Okay, and that same piece of SQL code can be reused again and again for a different purpose in project. Okay, so we just need to call this stored procedure to execute. That's it, nothing else other than that. So so I hope it is clear to all of you. And now let's go to the next example, right? Create procedure, find MPL by name. Here we are passing input parameter as employee name. In the last stored procedure, we passed as employee ID. So here we are passing employee name, and here uh, we are beginning and select star from EMPL where EMP underscore name equal to EMP name. So this EMP name which we are passing here. Okay, so it is selecting that, and instead of employee ID, we are retrieving based on employee name here. Okay, and so let's change it. Let's do it here as name12. Let's run this procedure. Okay, to create it. Now to illustrate the running, right? I need to show you live running. So I'm running this. So in another stored procedure created, we can see here 0 affected. So let's refresh it. So if we refresh it, we see if I employ by name one, we can see the stored procedure here. And now I am trying to run this newly created stored procedure by passing the employee name. Okay, run this, and we get the employee details. So we are retrieving the record from EMPL table based on employee name. In the last stored procedure, we retrieve based on employee ID. Okay, so now for the next example of the stored procedure, uh, okay. So next example of the stored procedure, we are doing this one. Okay, so so stored procedure ends here only. So next we'll come to trigger. Okay, so I hope it is clear. The concept of stored procedure is clear to all of you. So how stored procedure works. So I've given a live example here. So now let's go back to the trigger. So what is trigger? A trigger is a stored procedure in a database. Trigger is a special type of stored procedure, okay, that automatically invokes when a special event in the database occurs. So trigger is based on some event, okay. A stored procedure is not based on event, okay. A stored procedure we write with to reuse, okay, the piece of SQL code, okay, again and again. So if that piece of SQL code is invoked again and again and again, we save it as a stored procedure. We call that stored procedure by passing some input parameter, and when we call that stored procedure, it is executed and gives us the result, okay. But the trigger is a special type of stored procedure which gets invoked when a special event in a database happens. Okay. For example, a trigger can be invoked when a row is inserted into a specified table or when a specific table columns are updated. So a trigger can be invoked. So whenever a row is inserted into a specific table, we can perform some processing, okay, on that row. So that is called a trigger, okay. So following are the key differences between triggers and stored procedures. Triggers cannot be manually invoked or executed, okay. We cannot, like stored procedure can be manually invoked, right? We call that stored procedure. But triggers, we cannot manually invoke or execute, okay. So we write a trigger and when we execute it will automatically, we can see the result. There is no chance that trigger will receive parameters. Stored procedure receives parameters, but in trigger, we don't pass any parameter. A transaction cannot be committed or rolled back inside a trigger. So we cannot commit. What does commit means? Saving the changes permanently in the database. What does rollback means? Reverting back the changes, whatever I have made in the database. So transaction, whatever transactions we are performing inside a trigger, that cannot be committed or rolled back. Okay. So there are two types of trigger that we can see: before trigger and after trigger. Before trigger runs the trigger action before the triggering statement is run. Okay. So before that event happens, so before triggers run the trigger. Okay. Uh, After triggers run the trigger action after the triggering statement is done. So we will see both. Okay. We'll see both. So example, I'm just giving an example. Given student report database in which student marks assessment is recorded, in such a schema, create triggers so that total and percentage of specified marks are automatically inserted whenever a record is inserted. So whenever we insert a record, total and percentage of specified marks, these two data are automatically inserted. So we can write a trigger for that. So what are the advantages of using trigger? Database object rules established by triggers which cause changes to be undone if they are not made. Trigger will examine the data and if necessary make the changes. Okay. Trigger will examine the data. So that's how the trigger is written basically. It will examine the data. So we can also validate the data using triggers before being inserted or updated. This is a very vital point. It's a very big benefit of trigger. We can validate the data. Okay. We can enforce data integrity thanks to triggers. Triggers assist us in maintaining a records log. Yes, definitely. Due to the fact that they do not need to be compiled each time they run, triggers improve the performance of SQL queries. We don't need to compile the triggers, okay? Every time, okay? It means each time they run, so they improve the performance, SQL query performance. The client-side code is reduced by triggers, saving time and labor, and trigger maintenance is very simple, okay? We don't have to bother so much. So basically, triggers are, is highly, beneficial for the client. It will save cost, okay? So saving time and labor means it will save definitely the cost, okay? And data validation can be done through trigger. I already said, right, before and after trigger. Before it is getting inserted, we can validate the data before it is getting inserted, and after also it is getting inserted, we can perform different actions, okay? So everything can be done with the help of trigger. Okay, so let's see the live example. So so first for that we are altering the table MPL. So we are adding that column hourly pay in integer employee department. Select star from MPL. Okay, so so once I run this query, I have already run this query, so I will not run that alter table query again. Okay, so even if I change the column name, so a new column will be added. That is not intended actually. That will only increase the complexity. So I'm not running the above query. I'm just running the select star from MPL. So we can see that hourly pay column is already added here. Okay. And now we are updating the MPL and we are setting the hourly pay as sal by 2080 and select star from MPL. So 2080 is the total number of hours in a year. Okay. Sorry, hours in a month, I think. 2080 and so hourly pay is how much? So that we're dividing salary by 2080. Okay, to get the hourly pay. How much? Right. So when you so select start from employee MPL. So when I'm running, getting this, and now I'm creating a trigger. Okay, before our pay update, before our pay update. So it is a before trigger. Okay, as we can see. So how can we understand if it is a before or after trigger? By this statement within so before update on. So whenever you use keyword before, definitely it is a before trigger. Okay, so before update on EMPL for each row. So what it will do, so before it updates EMPL table, okay, so this is the trigger name. Before it updates the EMPL table, for each row it is telling that new salary equal to new hourly pay into 2080. So we use the new because it's a we are updating the hourly pay, right? And when we are updating the hourly pay, this salary value also changes because salary equal to hourly pay into number of hours, right? So 2080 hours are there a month, and hourly pay. So in each hour, how much we are paying, right? So that into 2080 gives the new salary, right? So that's how we have created the trigger, right? And after that, um, we're updating the employee table, and we are updating the hourly underscore pay field. Okay. So when suppose I'm giving here hourly pay plus 2. Okay. So when we are running this, uh, so so you're getting this value. Okay. Hourly pay, you see hourly pay value changed, right? And now, uh, if uh, we have already run this, and so before it uh, update it ran the trigger. Okay, so as we told, right, before update on EMPL. So what it will do, it will compute the new salary, and we can see it here. Right? Go to calculator and see it here. So 20 into 2080 is 41,600. So it is calculating it and is putting it in salary column. And similarly, 21 into 2080, 25 into 2080. So that's what we have written in the trigger, right? And that's how it executed. And before update, it calculated all the value. And after the update query ran, it updated in this salary column, those newly computed values, right? So actually trigger ran, okay, when we ran this update. So before running this update, it means the trigger was run, and after that it placed the new values there, and then the update happened. Okay. So before the event takes place, if the trigger runs, then it is a before trigger. And after the event takes place, then if the trigger runs, then it is a after trigger. Okay. So next also is a before insert on. It's before I insert a record into the table, the trigger will run. Okay. So suppose I'm inserting the values here. 510 Sumit 23, and I'll keep it as null. Okay. Why null? Because it will calculate, right? It will calculate the salary here, right? Salary position I kept as null. And now if I run this, I have one row affected, it ran successfully. And now if I select this and run it, we can see a row Sumit has already been inserted, infra 23, and in null, it calculated the salary, new salary. Okay. So what is the new salary? 23 into 2080, 47,840, which he has seen here, right? So this is how before trigger is run. Hmm? See, we have seen the cases of insert and update. Then okay, now we will see the case of after trigger. Okay. So we are creating a new table, expenses, where expense ID is the primary key. We know what is the primary key, right? It is contains unique value for that particular, that column contains unique value for that particular row. So primary key column can never contain duplicate values. Okay. So whenever I'm declaring as primary key, it should contain unique value for each row. So expense ID is a primary key, so it will contain unique expense ID for each row, expense underscore name and expense underscore total. Okay. So we have already created this table, so I'm not running these queries for the second time. And after that, we are inserting into the expenses these values. And if I run this select star from expenses, so we get this particular table, and we are updating the expenses. Okay, select sum of sal from employee, and where expense underscore name equal to salaries. So select star from expenses. So update if so if I run this query, you see this value changed. Okay, why this value changed? Because we inserted one row right in the MPL. So in the MPL, there's one more value, Sumit, right? And this is the salary value. So it is summing up everything. Okay, and summing that all the values in the salary column. Okay, so select sum of sal from MPL, right? And then just putting it into the expense total, expense underscore total, right? So if I run, so select star from expenses, so we can see here the value changed, right? So for salaries, right? And after that, when we are writing this particular trigger, so we are creating after trigger now. So it will run after delete. So after we delete any record from the employee, so this trigger will run, and what it will do, it will update the expenses table. It will set the expense total equal to expense total minus old dot sal. Old y means old salary value, so which we have deleted the record containing salary value from MPL. So for that particular salary, it will take value and it will subtract it from the expense underscore total, and it will put the new value of expense underscore total in the expense table. So whenever delete of a particular record, that employee table happens, so expense table is also updated, and specifically the expense underscore total field, right? Now, um, so this trigger we have created, and now we are running this query, right? And we are running this query also, MPL, select star from MPL. So here we can see expense total is 5,26,240, right? Now we run MPL table, select star from MPL table, this query. And here we can see, and now let's delete no the record for record for employee ID 2502. Okay, so let's delete, let's do that. Okay, let's see what happens. So employee ID is equal to 2502. So what is that? Salary is 45,760. So now if we select star from expenses, if we run this 5,26,240, right? And after that, if we run, let's give this 5,26,240. Okay, and minus what it will do, minus that old dot cell, right? So if I run that select star from AMPL, so we are deleting which record? This record 2502 Balu. Okay, the employee name is Balu, employee ID is 2502, employee department infra, and salary is 45,760, right? So we just deleting, we're just subtracting it, 45,760. So it should come 4,80,480. Okay, so it should come, should be updated. Okay, so expenses underscore total should be updated as per the after trigger that we have created, right? So this trigger when we so whenever we delete any record from employee table, expenses table will also update it. Which column will get updated? Expenses underscore total. Okay, so previously we have seen it is 5,26,240. Now, if I run this particular um, query, so I run it and one row affected. And now, if I select start from expenses, we can see 4,80,480, which is same as here. We calculate, right? Previous expense underscore total was 5,26,240, and we deleted that record where the salary value was 45,760. So when we subtract it, we get 4,80,480. That is the exact value we got in the expense underscore total. So we now understood, right, how after trigger works, and I have also told, right, how before trigger worked. Okay. Okay. So thanks all of you, and I wish you all the best for the upcoming interviews on advanced SQL. So I hope my session helped you to clear the concept on stored procedure and triggers. Okay, I have used MySQL as database. Okay, so thanks all of you. Thank you so much. Bye.